name is John Anderson. I am Senior Director of Market Innovation at OhmConnect, and I'm thrilled to be here on this Friday afternoon. Thank you everyone for sticking around this late in the program. Victoria is actually my hometown. I was born and raised here. I moved away for 20 some odd years to study and to work, but actually moved back about 3 years ago at the height of the pandemic, and I'm now raising my kids here and continuing to work remotely for OhmConnect from Victoria. Our vision is 100% clean energy for everyone, and what we're doing to try to fulfill this vision is to help people reimagine how they use energy, to give them tools to change when they use energy and to reward them for changing when they use energy in the service of their pocketbooks, in the service of a more sustainable and reliable electric grid, and in the service of protecting the planet. And when I stop and think about it, I think we know how to fight climate change. This isn't fundamentally that difficult of a problem. We need zero carbon electricity across the board, and there's major endeavors underway to promote that effort. We need to electrify everything, whether that's transportation, heating our homes, cooking within our homes. And we need to learn how to flex electrical loads, to shift around when we're using energy in particular to accommodate these renewables and these large-scale electrification efforts. But this last piece is obviously much easier said than done, and adding more and more renewables to our electrical systems is presenting significant operational challenges. This is a picture you may have seen before. It's called the duck curve. This has been making the rounds in California for as long as I've been in the business, 10 or so years, and I'll let you take a crack at why it bears that name. This is showing net electrical demand on a typical California spring day from 2012 through 2020. Net electrical demand is total electric demand less supply from intermittent, non-controllable renewables, in particular wind and solar resources. So it's the remaining load that needs to be met by dispatchable resources, whether that's natural gas, hydro, or demand-side resources. And what has happened as California has added more and more renewables is the belly of the duck is getting deeper, and the neck of the duck is getting higher and higher and steeper. And so in the middle of the day, the vast majority of electric load in California is being met by renewables, solar in particular. But as the sun sets and people start coming home from work and cooking dinner and turning on their televisions, we have a tremendous ramp in the electrical system on the order sometimes of 20,000 some odd megawatts within a matter of hours. And unfortunately, to date, most of that has to be met with dispatchable gas resources. So this is one of the things we are trying to tackle with demand-side resources. As I mentioned, we can do this with gas, but that's expensive, it's polluting, and we're probably not going to see any new gas in places like California. We can do it to a degree with storage, but that's also expensive, and there's many competing use cases for the limited storage capacity we currently have. The costs are still coming down. We'll see how this plays out. So I would posit the most cost-effective means, in fact, of meeting this operational challenge is demand-side virtual power plants, VPPs, which are in effect aggregations of distributed energy resources that may have been installed for an altogether ancillary application for reliability purposes on site, for rate arbitrage purposes, but have the ability to serve an orchestration, to respond to grid instructions, to respond to market incentives, and can do so already today at scale and at low cost. This isn't something that's entirely new. I'm sure most of the people here are familiar with demand response and how it's evolved into what I'm calling VPPs. But traditionally, demand response was really the domain of large customers, large commercial and industrial electric customers. And it was also the domain of the legacy incumbent electric utilities. There wasn't really a significant role for small customers or for customers served by non-utility entities. But three things in the last 10 years have fundamentally changed. We've had smart meters, we've had smart devices, and we've had smart policies. And it's the first, smart meters, that I'm really going to dig into in the time we have today. These, of course, are electric meters that measure electricity consumption on an hourly or sub-hourly basis. Instead of an odometer-like meter that simply measures how much energy you use since the last point in time in which it was read, they can measure usage on a high-frequency basis. They can also transmit this consumption data back to the electric utility on perhaps a daily basis or even more frequent than that. They don't need a meter reader to come out to your property on a monthly basis and tell you how much energy has used. Meanwhile, you can walk into any electronic shop now and see a plethora of smart devices available at low cost, Wi-Fi thermostats, smart plugs, electric vehicle chargers, you name it. And these things can help manage energy use within the home. Just as important, many of these devices now have a set of developer APIs that third parties like OhmConnect can access to control the device with the customer's permission. Finally, smart policies such as FERC Order number 745 at the US federal level and various California policies have really fundamentally opened up the market to third-party actors. They are allowing VPP providers to participate in wholesale electric markets as though we were physical generators, and allowing customers to enroll in our services alongside the legacy services offered by incumbent utilities. So this is a representation of what OhmConnect is able to do with customers' interval usage data. Our VPPs are paid the market price of electricity for every kilowatt hour that our customers reduce, in much the same way that a power plant gets paid the market price of energy for kilowatt hours generated and delivered to the grid. So what we're seeing in this picture is actual household use represented by the blue line and measured by that smart meter on an hourly basis or more frequently. We're seeing a representation of expected or forecast energy use in the gray curve. And then the difference between these two things is the quantity of energy that is effectively no longer there on account of our intervention. The energy that we have, in effect, delivered to the system by getting our customers to curtail. And by targeting periods of high wholesale demand and high wholesale prices, as you see by that orange dot at the top of the screen, we're able to capture time-dependent energy value on behalf of our customers. Our expansion throughout the US starts in the West in California with the advent of the smart metering and smart markets policies I mentioned. And we've been slowly marching eastward ever since, in the ERCOT market in Texas, and more recently in the New York ISO market on the East Coast. And between these smart policies, smart meters, and smart devices, we developed and deliver a gamified platform that rewards our customers for energy saving at peak times, in large part through their connecting smart devices that makes their participation automatic and effortless. So let's dig in a little bit more into the smart meters. Those of you, again, familiar with this construct know that the smart meter is sending data back to the utility that has a variety of different benefits to the utility and the electric system. As I mentioned earlier, it obviates the need for physical meter readers going out to your home once a month and measuring your energy usage. It allows for faster troubleshooting of potential outages on the system. They can detect faster where there might be problems based on meters that are no longer transmitting data. It also allows utilities and other providers to introduce advanced dynamic retail rates, which have great potential to help customers save energy and save money. But in order for a business like OhmConnect to provide a service to customers, the data can't simply stop at the utility. It needs to go one step further, and this is where the green button standard comes into play. If you've heard of green button, you may be aware there are two flavors of the platform. One is called Download My Data, and this allows customers to access their own interval usage data, analyze their own data to the extent they want to do that, or make a one-off download of their data available to a service provider. Maybe that's an energy efficiency provider or a solar company. But there's another flavor of green button called Connect My Data, and this allows the customer to authorize ongoing sharing of their data with a third party like OhmConnect. And this is the platform that we are using to access customers' data to provide our VPP offering. Now, what I've shown you is when everything works perfectly, when it works happily, when we can provide customers with a seamless, tidy experience. It doesn't always work that way. And I really want to dig into some of these issues in the hope that there's some lessons that can be learned for others that are walking this path, either as a utility, as a regulator, as a business provider like OhmConnect. And the reality is getting your hands on customer data, even with the customer's consent and the customer's excitement, is much easier said than done. And the problems can start before the customer has even gone to the utility website to initiate data sharing. So what I want to show here are a couple of screenshots from OhmConnect's enrollment flow. This is where the customer has created an OhmConnect account and we are about to prompt them to share their utility meter data with us. On the left-hand side, you see the screen that would be presented to customers in New York City of Consolidated Edison, the big utility in New York City, the 5 boroughs in Westchester County. On the right-hand side is a very similar screen that we would show to customers in Northern California served by Pacific Gas and Electric. And there are 2 differences between these 2 screens that I want to call attention to. The first is on the Con Ed screen. Right at the top, you see a big Con Edison logo. And if you're a Con Ed customer, you're going to recognize that in a second. You look at the PG&E screen, there's no logo. There's no PG&E logo. Why isn't the logo there? Because PG&E will not let us use it. In our experience, showing these utility logos leads to substantially higher click-through rates on the part of customers because it engenders trust. Con Edison's logo is a sign that maybe they don't endorse our particular solution or our business per se, but they endorse the data sharing pathway that we are presenting to customers. This is the preferred pathway because it is secure and it respects customer privacy. The second difference you see is that the Con Ed authorization will actually allow the customer to set the default scope of the authorization, or in this case, the term of the authorization, how long the data sharing authorization lasts. And as I explained how OhmConnect's business works, we need customers' data on an ongoing basis. It is not good enough for a customer to give us a one-off snapshot of their data because we want them participating in our program on a daily basis, saving energy perhaps a couple of times a week, and getting paid for their verified energy reductions. If a customer therefore goes through the Con Edison flow and says, share this one time, gives us their data on a one-off basis, it's virtually no better than had they not signed up at all. We cannot provide them with the right experience. On the other hand, PG&E actually allows us to set the terms or the term and the scope of the authorization, and therefore it's more of a take it or leave it basis for the customer. We're very transparent with the customer, what they are agreeing to, but if they don't like it, they don't have to accept it. And in that case, we're only getting authorizations from customers who provide us with all of the data we need in order to provide a fulsome, rewarding service. Let's suppose we get past that issue. Now we are on the utility website, and oh, there it is, the PG&E logo. Now that we're on their website, they're happy to show it to you. How does the customer authenticate him or herself to the utility so that the utility knows it is indeed the person who is saying they are when they're providing the data authorization? The default pathway is to use the utility account credentials, the same username and password you would use to sign into your Con Edison account or your PG&E account, for instance, to pay your monthly utility bill. The reality, though, is, I'm sorry, Hydro-Quebec, most people do not sign into their utility accounts especially often. Many people don't even know what their username is, what their password is, or if they have an account in the first place. And unfortunately, that will stop a lot of customers dead in their tracks. They will stop at this step, and that's the last we ever see of them. PG&E, bless their hearts, they provide an alternate pathway for accessing or authenticating yourself, I should say. But the reality is it's really not much better. Put in your account number. Anyone here know their utility account number? It's on a bill somewhere behind that login. If you don't know your login credentials, you're not going to find that. Or it's in a drawer at home, under 500 other pieces of paper, but you're not at home. You're out at the Canadian Data Summit, and you want to sign up for OhmConnect right now, not when you get home tonight. You're not going to remember to do that. So these steps are putting friction in front of customers, well-intentioned customers who want to enroll, who want to participate, but are potentially being blocked. And so let's look at a couple alternative means of accomplishing the same type of authentication. Does anyone recognize the screen on the left? This is from the CRA, Canada Revenue Agency. You don't need a CRA account to sign in or authenticate yourself to the CRA. They delegate that or can delegate it to any number of different institutions. And I would guarantee that most people interact with one of these institutions a lot more than they do their utility. I know my Scotiabank username and password. I use it all the time. Similarly, on the right-hand side, this is the screen you see when you're setting up an Airbnb account. You can proceed with your email and making up yet another password and so forth, or you can effectively outsource it to the likes of Facebook, Google, or Apple, again, a platform that you probably use much more often. And so by delegating the authentication step to these popular and trusted third-party services, we can increase signups while still maintaining a safe and secure experience for customers. Let's assume, nonetheless, though, the customer has made it through this step. Another problem that we see far too often, in particular in California, is that customers get redirected from the OhmConnect site to the utility site to authenticate themselves and authorize sharing of their data, and then they disappear. I've put this picture here of the moon and the spaceship because it's like a spacecraft going around the backside of the moon. We lose radio contact, and we never hear from it again. What happened to the spaceship? We don't know, but you know who does know? The utility, because they've got a nice little moon base with a radio pointing right at that spaceship. And they could tell us, but they don't. We cannot distinguish between failures when it comes to the data authorization that might be due to a customer forgetting their utility username or password. Maybe they sit there on that screen I showed you, they try 10 times to put in their username and password, and they finally give up. We can't tell if somebody affirmatively rejected the terms of the data sharing because they didn't like it. Maybe it was off-putting, there was too much legalese, and they said, this kind of scares me, I don't like it. We can't tell if the session timed out. Maybe the doorbell rang, someone went to the door, and they just forgot to come back and authorize data sharing. And we cannot tell if the reason the customer didn't finish the authorization is because the utility site was down. And I'm sorry to say that happens an awful lot, and we'll dig into some data on that in just a moment. However, if the utilities told us that a particular session did not result in a successful data sharing authorization for a specific outcome, there are actions that OhmConnect could take to try to remedy that. If the utility site was down, maybe we simply ping the customer when the site's back up. We say, hey, go back and finish that session. The site's up, should work now. If they didn't remember their username and password, send them a link to the site that lets them reset that. If they rejected the terms of the data sharing, maybe we can present some information on our side that makes it seem a little less scary, that helps, translate some of that legalese into something that's readily understood. So as I mentioned, we've been tracking the utility system downtime for the 3 major California utilities. That's PG&E in Northern California, Southern California Edison in the greater Los Angeles area, and San Diego Gas and Electric in the San Diego area. And unfortunately, none of these 3 utilities over the past several years has come even close to the 99% plus uptime that we would expect of a major data service. And this costs us a lot of money because, as you can imagine, we have a whole bunch of marketing channel partners that we pay to send traffic to our site, which we then redirect to the utility site. And if we drive people straight into a brick wall because the utility site isn't working, guess what? We still have to pay our affiliate partners. So we're paying money to just flush users straight down the toilet sometimes. And again, the utilities in some cases haven't done us any favors by making the language seem a little bit daunting and scary potentially to customers, saying that they haven't conducted security reviews of the companies participating in this program. If I'm a customer, that might give me pause. Say, I don't know, do I want to share my data with these guys? I don't know. And I would attribute much of this to a matter of incentives. The reality is, at least in California, the utilities don't get rewarded if they do a good job of maintaining these data systems. But unfortunately, neither do they seem to get penalized if they do a poor job. So the graph on the left-hand side here is showing the number of data incidents that OhmConnect has reported to each of the utilities over the past 4 years. If something rises to the level of affecting enough customers or affecting our processes for long enough, there is an established process for filling out a report, submitting it to the utility, and asking that they act upon it. We're doing this, in some cases, dozens of times each year. It is a tremendous drag on our resources, and it is a tremendously negative experience for our customers. In the most extreme of cases, OhmConnect felt as though we had exhausted every other avenue before us, and we filed a capital C formal complaint at the California Public Utilities Commission against Southern California Edison Company. And I have zoomed in on the complaint date, March 2019. Anyone want to take a guess as to whether that complaint has been addressed and resolved by the CPUC? No. 4.5 years after taking the most dramatic possible action against SCE, nothing has changed. And so I mention this as a cautionary tale to other jurisdictions, in particular Ontario, which has just turned the corner on launching Green Button Connect in the province. We are excited about this opportunity. We are excited about the momentum behind this. We hope they will observe this experience as a cautionary tale and stand positioned to address any issues when, not if, they occur. But lest I end on a negative note, I would like to touch upon the social impact that OhmConnect has managed to have in spite of these data access obstacles. I'm very proud to report that we have received about 500,000 smart meter data sharing authorizations from customers. It could have been a lot more if some of the issues that we'd discussed today had been addressed, but it's an excellent start. 500,000 people are doing something that they otherwise wouldn't be doing. We also have 225,000 active connected devices on our platform. Again, these are smart thermostats, smart plugs, EV chargers that are responding automatically when grid events occur, creating value for the grid and for customers without people having to lift a finger. And to this end, we've reduced a cumulative 12 gigawatt hours of energy during grid events. This is roughly enough energy to power the city of San Francisco, California for a whole day. And we've reduced 8,500 metric tons of CO2 in the process, about the equivalent of 2,000 vehicles being taken off the road for a whole year. Finally, we're very proud of the fact that about a third of our users are demonstrably lower income or otherwise disadvantaged families. They are people that live in the communities that are most directly impacted by environmental blight. For instance, being in close proximity to industrial facilities, natural gas power plants, and so forth. And believe it or not, these families are some of our very best customers, because the money that they're able to make or save by participating in our program really makes a difference in their lives. It could mean the difference between getting Christmas presents for your kids, could mean the difference between sending your kids to camp. And in a world where so much of the environmental technology is focused on the affluent, solar panels, EVs, battery storage, we really believe we have a solution that's available to anybody. If you have a cell phone, and if you have a smart meter, you can sign up for OhmConnect. And for a lot of families, this is the family computer. So we're proud of this success. We hope to continue to build upon this. We hope to be doing so in Canada soon. And thanks so much again for sticking around on a Friday afternoon.
It looks like they're still getting settled there, so. Any questions? You got one?
Maybe we can discuss after, but actually I have a lot of questions, but we have a problem with baseline calculation, and it's I mean, it's very difficult. How you manage that? I mean, it's critical in all you do, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll use California as an example. We participate in the California ISO wholesale market. The CAISO tariff specifies a number of different baseline methodologies that participants in the market can use. Some of them are day matching or weather matching that are based on historical usage data, which can be noisy in the case of residential customers. The good news is we have such a large customer base that much of that noise now cancels out. In more recent years, they have also introduced control group methodologies that seek to set aside a group of non-participating customers to serve as controls. The challenge for a business like OhmConnect is, much like I was saying, we sign up people who we pay money to acquire and they never complete their data sharing authorizations. We also have to pay money to sign up users who are going to serve as controls, which is a pretty lousy customer experience. People want to sign up, they want to take action. You're saying, you know what, go sit on the bench for a month, we'll tap you in next time around. So one of the things we're looking at is, again, guess who has a lot of customers that could be controls? The utility. Is there a way that we could leverage non-participating utility customers and their data to serve as a control group against our customers? So we can focus on signing up people who participate, but nonetheless measure their performance precisely against a representative control group.
We tried that specifically with control groups. It's challenging to find a control group that match your non-control group. But yeah, very interesting. Yeah, and I was also thank you. Yeah, I was also thinking more in the trust, how the customer. I mean, yeah, even if you're using the methodology that was approved, how you can build the trust to the customer that say, yeah, this is what we are using, but we are actually using that, you know?
We have a methodology that we have to use vis-a-vis the market operator. It's in the tariff. We have to follow those rules. But we have more discretion in terms of what we actually do when we're facing our customers. So there's one settlement methodology for the market, another one we can use with our customers. And we do try to simplify the version we use with individual customers so that it's something that they can understand. I had a slide in here I can show you again, but basically we're looking at their past 10 days usage, taking an average, using that as a baseline. It may not be perfectly accurate, but more importantly, most people understand that. They can see how it works.